Will AI kill SEO or will it save it? Let's find out on today's episode with special guest, Robert Downey. Today's episode is brought to you by the bestseller ChatGPT Profits. This book is the missing instruction manual to get you up and running with ChatGPT in a matter of minutes. As a special gift, you can get it absolutely free at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift or at the link right below this episode. Make sure to grab your copy before it goes back up to full price. Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss, and start living your retirement dreams now, then you come to the right place. Welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Podcast, where you will learn how to use artificial intelligence to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host. Now, I'm excited to have you here because I was doing SEO a long time ago, way back in 2010, and things have changed a lot since then. Now, if I do a Google search, Google tells me the answer from someone's website. Then it's 75 ads. And then if you scroll way at the bottom, there's one organic result. So we're seeing a lot of that. And then other people are searching with Perplexity, which they give you the link, but they really give you the information. Then you have to really click on the number to then go to the link. So I'm curious is how AI, especially with how people are searching and getting their content, it's going to change SEO market, the SEO world. Do you think like Google's going to lose their stranglehold? And what's the future? And how are you guys approaching that as SEO experts?
It's going to be one of those big changes. It's probably one of the biggest change in the next 18 months is my prediction on that. Because you're right. You have several different layers of AI when it comes out. You've got the AI inside of search, inside of Google. You have it inside of Bing as well for ChatGPT. The other piece I'm seeing, so we analyze over 70,000 different profiles and analytics inside of our database. I'm seeing a lot more search volume coming from ChatGPT directly for incoming links than I've ever seen. That it's starting to take a huge piece, which is only going to take big sections of search out to where Google's not as much of a dominant as it was a year ago, even 6 months ago. It's where AI is really taking that whole entire piece on, and it's changed the way people search because it is showing up all those AI results at the very beginning. So if you're not blogging, you're not properly doing your SEO and properly stacking everything up, you are going to be left behind pretty much instantly because all that's there, it's going to have to be building on the three pillars: the content, the authority, and the trust. Are the three pillars I really aim and I kind of work through.
So one of the things I think about is that basically Google for the past 20 years has made all the content on the internet worse. Because as they add more steps to their algorithm, you have to put the keyword in there. Then you have to use latent semantic indexing and put other keywords in there. Oh, your article needs to be 1,500 words. Now it needs to be 3,000 words. Now it to be 6,000 words. And you use these tools to tell you what to do. And you end up you write an article that people will read. Then you have to rewrite it, 90% of it, so that it will rank in the search. And it's caused this like quality became the last thing that mattered because who cares if the quality if no one sees the article? I totally get that. And I wonder if we're at a point now where quality can rise to the top again. And that's my hope because for so long we've been writing content. If you want your content to rank, you have to write it in a certain way. You engine instead of the reader. And I don't know if you're as old as me, but I remember in 1999 when you would do a search and you clicked on the first answer, it was probably what you were looking for. That's how search engines used to work.
It was so much easier back then. I can go all the way back to 95 as far as how search was working and SEO for that. I was working for AOL, CompuServe, and Prodigy back then at HP. And plus I was building websites and charging an absolute fortune for it, but it was a lot easier to be able to get something to rank then. And we're talking about Alta Vista, we're talking about Lycos, we're talking about all those old school search engines. I remember taking Alta Vista completely apart once and looking at how the algorithm worked. Can't do that anymore. It's all hidden stuff that's all behind the scenes. But no, you're going to have a huge shift where quality is going to matter more. And where I'm seeing a couple ways to get around that quality piece that work really well inside of SEO is, for one, I saw an article this weekend that actually went really viral. It got over 1,000 views inside of YouTube ranked, and it was a single paragraph. But it was written by that business owner. They used our AI SEO tool to be able to It took that piece of content and just made it to where everything was there, but it was unique content. It was 100% by them. It falls into the same category I say that's working right now inside of SEO is you record a video like the conversation you and I are having right this second. You now can make a blog off of that. You can make your social media posts off of that. That is all real content. And it's actually coming from that transcript where it is actually real, true pieces. And Google's eating that up because right now, content used to be king. As much as content as you could possibly produce, you would sit and you would rank inside. You'd go to an SEO firm, that's what they would do. They'd write a ton of content. And now with all the AIs that are out there, 3,000 word article, how many people just go do it? They don't even fact check it. They copy, they paste, and they throw it in there. It has no quality.
Yeah. I do want to go down that direction, kind of look at everyone's thinks the best use of AI is generating content from scratch, which is it's the thing it's the worst at. What I'm also interested in is when I worked on a project many years ago and I did a bunch of media appearances and I went through PR training for like being on the radio and being on television. One of the things they teach you when you're on live radio or when you're on pre-recorded radio, especially where they're going to edit it, is that when you're giving your answer, you slip in the name of your book so that they can't cut it out because you can't wait till the end. And I'm wondering if that's a part of the strategy now that you know the snippet that's going to get snatched. So you slide in the name of your business or something where people will know where the content came from. Is that kind of one of the things or one of the directions you can take knowing that your data is going to get like that you're going to end up in the snippet inside of not getting shown your actual website, but actually just shown as the list or whatever's at the top of the search?
You could. It definitely could be inside of there. I'm going to take that and I'm actually going to flip that script a little bit. So I see a lot of my competition out there writing articles, and there's something called hidden SEO. It's all the stuff that's behind. It's like back in the day when we used meta keywords and they hide content behind the CSS. It doesn't display, but the search engine can see it. I'm seeing some of that for this, but I'm also seeing articles that get wrote and they're a direct competitor of ours. And they mentioned our name as an expert and they didn't read their content before it went out. And it says simply be found on it. I'm like,
Yeah.
so it can go both ways as far as that goes.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So you could create your content in a way that will get picked up by the AIs so that in 6 months, when we push the next update, it's trained on a bunch of your data. That's very clever. I like that a lot. The way,
It's a whole new world and we're going faster than we've ever went. Since we talked about the 90s, I've never seen it go this fast before.
do you think that like quality is going to become more important than quantity again? Are we going to shift back in that direction on the seesaw?
Yeah. So if you're looking at content authority and trust, it's going to be the algorithms are going to be looking for trust. It's going to be looking for authority, which is going to be that quality piece. It wants to see how consistent you are on doing your posting. It wants to see if your posting is the same. I have my prediction on that is going to be, it's going to look at the quality score. It's also going to look at, does this article match what you wrote before? Is it the same writing style? Or is it writing style that you've had before? Or is it completely different off base? Because Google's going to have to figure out what it's going to do with this because they have to make money on ads. They have voice search taking over. That's a huge new term of voice search registration. Then you have the AI piece that's inside of there. And they're not making money on voice because there's no ads on voice yet. I predict that there's going to be ads coming out on that. And AI doesn't have any ads either. So how do you make money from it?
So many questions I want to ask because so many great trying to like, I am, yeah, the thing that about the consistency of voice that really interests me is there's a lot of these companies that sell, oh, we'll look at your content and tell you how much of it's AI written. And then they say, oh, it's 100% AI, but you can buy our software to de-AI it. And what I always say to people is that whatever your budget for tricking Google's AI, their budget for detecting yours is significantly larger.
Oh, it's huge.
You can't outspend, you're not going to outspend them on this. Even though you go through phases where they're not penalizing AI content and people go, oh, I guess it's allowed. And then they do it all in a sweep. That's because they want everyone to find out about a secret, all the naughty people to get involved so they can catch them all in the same.
And you
It's
throw them all in the same bucket and you push them
it,
off to the side.
it,
That
I,
was what the win update, and I think was the one that really took a lot of people out back in the day.
yeah, and exactly. The darkest memories, the dark days of like just all these things get swept in, things that entire businesses disappeared. They used to be like the articles, and then it was ow, and then those websites that never appear in search results anymore. And then it was Reddit, now it's LinkedIn. So definitely there's a lot of these phases. And I think that the mindset of people spend so much time learning how to cheat, then
Yep.
write the content and then trying to do pass the AI tests. And I test a lot of those tools, and they're very suspicious. What is your algorithm? And really all they're testing for, as far as I can tell, is consistency of sentence length and consistency of complexity. So if everything is written at an 8th grade level and all the sentences are the same length, they'll go AI. I think that's the only thing
Correct.
that those AI checkers are testing, whereas I'm sure Google's checker is a lot more sophisticated, like you said. Does this sound like the person who was here yesterday? Does this sound like the person who was here a month ago? That's very clever. And
I think it's going to be checking that, because if we look at the different AI checkers out there, let's pick on Grammarly for a second. So my business partner inside of Simply, Dean Kaler, he's 65 years old, and he's a perfect test person of a small business owner. And his whole background in engineering is just amazing when it comes to it. He wrote a piece of content the other day, wrote an actual thing, sat down, hands on keyboard, and wrote out this whole entire piece inside of Word, pasted it inside of Grammarly, and it said it was 72% AI written.
I saw that happen with the Declaration of Independence last week, where it got like 91% written by AI. And I can understand why, because no one says thee and thou anymore. So it's written in Old English, but it's funny that it didn't recognize the Constitution. So for the other direction I want to,
It's been used so many times, so it's a reference point.
so for kind of the idea, like what is the right path to content generation? Is like writing your content using AI a good choice right now, or is it something that will work for a little while and then have a you're going to get hit with the next Google update?
I think that you have to train a GPT. So if you're ever focusing on ChatGPT for writing content, you can do this in Gemini as well, but you can create a custom GPT. You can put all of your own content in there that you wrote and that you took time for. You can put your videos transcripts in there. You can start stacking all that stuff up so it knows you. And I think that is going to be more unique. And then for you to actually not just take the first version that content comes out, I think you can use it and massage it to where it's good, to where I don't like this idea, but you're actually using it as an editor and you're going back and forth. I think AI can get it 80% there. And then with a nice long conversation with that content, it can be massaged out and become a good piece of content that would not be necessarily AI driven. But just taking it and saying, hey, write me a 1,500 word article on this topic and copy paste, that's going to be something that's going to get you kicked off and banned. And I predict they're going to start doing that probably mid next year, if not sooner.
The
Because there's just too much content going out. They don't know. Their algorithm is so confused at this point.
problem is that people are always tempted when cheating is easy. The
They
temptation is,
wanted,
and that's the biggest mistake I see people make, is releasing content they haven't read. That's the number one
yeah,
mistake people make in every area. Is I'm like, don't send an email, don't publish a blog post, don't post a comment on social media that you haven't read. There's such a temptation to, it's probably fine. And that's when it always goes bad. Maybe it doesn't happen the first time, it takes a couple of times, but as you stop paying attention, then more and more, it drifts more and more. And I think that it's just so easy. What everyone wants is you push one button and it just writes the perfect content, publishes it for you, formats it, adds perfect images, and makes you a bunch of money. The problem is, if you can push that button, anyone can push that button.
anybody can do it.
Commodity. That's the important lesson, is that if it's easy, anyone can do it. And that means it's not special and not valuable anymore. So there
Correct.
has to be something in your business that's hard, or your business won't last. If everything's easy, then there's no like challenge for someone to replicate you. There's nothing keeping anyone else from taking your market share. And the desire for super easiness is leading this race to the bottom with content. And one other idea I wanted to ask you about is that there's so much content now on the internet that's been written by ChatGPT, so many blog posts, so many social media posts. When they run the next cycle of training ChatGPT 5 or Strawberry or 6 or whatever they call it, it's going to be trained on tons of stuff that it wrote. And I feel like what's going to happen is that as no one writes original content, then AI it's going to keep training on itself, which means it's going to get dumber or go insane. Because that's what happens when you think the same thought over and over again, faster and faster. That's not good. That's really bad.
It's not good at all. Now, the question comes down to that statement is, does ChatGPT have something in it that it knows everything it already wrote?
And if it does, then that means Google knows the same secret. One thing I do know is that ChatGPT uses like fingerprint words. Maybe that's not the right word, but ways to reveal. So for example, I always get the word landscape all the time, and I always get the word pondering, 2 words I would never use other than to describe them. The people I know they never get landscape, they get realm. So they get these different words that kind of fingerprint them. Every printer does something when it's printing something out to reveal which printer this was. So I do think you're right that if you don't edit the content, there's something in there that gives it up. It's usually a weird word or a weird phrase. I got an email from a top 10 university the other day that started off with, "In the ever-changing digital age." And I was like, wait a minute, you didn't even use a good prompt? So it's like all the time, whenever I hear digital age or digital landscape or ever-changing, almost everything written by ChatGPT starts with that type of phrase, or it loves you might think it's A, but it's actually B. That's the other phrase it loves to use that I recognize because I use it a lot. So if I can catch it, certainly an AI detector that's made by a big company can catch it. So this
Right.
cycle of content. And one thing that was really interesting to me, someone recently thought when I said I host an AI podcast, they thought that it was like a podcast that was an AI host that I like managed. And I was like, no, it's a human podcast. We talk about AI. Very different idea. And it's if all of the content is written by AI and all of the comments are written by AI, then what's the point? You're no longer getting the benefit. And a lot of companies and smaller companies, and even big companies, it always surprises me when big companies are doing this, are writing all their articles by AI. And then they want their social media and their comments are written by AI. But then you have no interaction
You
because
have no,
your audience is
you have
telling
no,
you important. And I
correct.
actually think
You miss some of that human touch.
I think now is an opportunity for smaller companies to shine because you can have more trust. Like with the thing with Sports Illustrated last year, right? Where everything was AI generated and they were making up fake names. And then they got caught because I think they made a fake volleyball rule, which is someone goes, that's not a rule in volleyball. And that led to the whole thing where they had fake profiles with fake bios. They went too far. That is exactly the mistake that these big corporations make because they look at things at scale. So I see it as an opportunity. Like when I look for a product review, I always look for a video where there's not enough views that it's worth paying the person off. Like I want the guy who's got 2,000 views. I'm like, bother to bribe this dude. He's going to give a real opinion. And I think that's what I think might be really cool right now is that we see fracturing of these monoliths, that we see more people with smaller companies and smaller brands have an opportunity to stand out. And then the bigger brands that last will be the ones that don't shortcut it because they don't need to.
Illustrator did that with the volleyball piece. And that piece was absolutely horrible. And that's because they didn't bring that human touch into it. And when you don't bring human touch into the side of AI, you're going to sound like everybody else. And I think you're right. Having that small business person being able to do it, that's an entire point is bringing that small person into being able to compete with the big boys, being able to work inside there. That's why when we do our AI piece, there's a human behind each of those touches. So like when we do our AI SEO, you have an SEO expert, which is a marketing coach behind that, making those final decisions. Because just because the AI thinks it's good doesn't always mean it's a good thing to do.
One
If
of
you
the
don't have, it's gonna be a very cumbersome piece, and it's gonna come back and kick your butt.
One of the big temptations right now is for people to do things they've never done before. So they've never made an AI video. They've never made a video before. Now they want to make AI videos. They've never wrote a podcast before. Now they want an generated podcast. And the problem with that is that if you've never done it before, you don't know what's good or bad. So you don't have the
Right.
ability, if you've never written a good blog post or had a video go viral, then you don't have that ability to error correct. It's the same way that if you hire someone and they tell you don't know if they're slow rolling you, they go, oh, to edit a video takes 6 weeks. You don't know if that's true or not if you've never edited a video. You can unfortunately get taken for a ride. Like when you hire someone to do something on your house, if you don't know, then you don't know. Like
Exactly.
every time I took my car in when I owned a car, they would always tell me they needed to repair stuff. And then I would Google it. I go, that part doesn't exist. Stop offering to repair things that don't even exist. Stop rust proofing me. So it's
My
that.
wife has the best. My wife has the best story on that. She took her Forerunner in, and they said we topped off the windshield wiper fluid. And she goes, "Where did it go on your floor?" And the guy looked at her, and she goes, "This was back in the '90s when or probably '90s or 2000s. She first got her license." The guy goes, "What do you mean?" She goes, "It doesn't have a reservoir for windshield wiper fluid. That got destroyed years ago."
Yeah.
So how'd you do that?
And exactly. So this temptation to
Right.
do things you go, oh, now I've got all these superpowers. Now I can make videos and edit videos and write viral scripts. And the one thing I know, if I watch an AI generated video, I can tell right away if it's someone who's made videos before. I follow one guy who's been a film producer for 20 years. He's made tons of short films. His AI videos are amazing. Everyone else's are terrible. And there's such, even though you can do more than you could do before, if you can't detect because you haven't done the greatness, you can't tell if what the AI has created is not good. And so you'll publish it thinking this is great. But you don't know because you haven't done it before. And I think that's where we're seeing with content generation, with video, with all these different things. It's exciting. But if you can't tell if it's done a good or bad job, you're in a very precarious position.
You are. I did some testing on some AI videos and being able to produce massive amounts of content with myself and taking and doing that AI clone piece. And my problem with it is I did a bunch of them. I'd say it's probably 93 to 95% there, but it's missing the soul of the realness that's there. It's kind of like my team likes to always take out the ums and the ahs. And I'm like, no, you got to leave that in there. You have these big pauses. Those pauses are in there for a reason. You can't train an AI very easily to be able to, unless you have buku bucks, to be able to bring that in. Because when you bring those pauses or when you bring those gestures in or the hand gesture forward or how your eyes are looking in that conversation, that's what makes it real. And you're not going to get that with AI. You're going to have some really expensive software. I'm not even sure that software really exists where it could be 100% perfect. For the certain kind of video, sure. But a video, say like this podcast right now, how would you ever get the hand gestures in there? How would you ever get that emotion to bring that soul to it? And I think that's the biggest thing with AI is it can be used like a calculator. It can be used as a tool to be able to help you improve, but it can't be your end all result of it's going to be a magic button. We're going to hit it and boom, everything's going to be perfect. And it's roses and puppy dogs because that doesn't exist. Because like you said before, somebody else is going to be doing that anyway. So if it's that easy, you're going to have 500 other people doing it. Business isn't easy when it comes to everything. It's not going to be boom, just flip it on and great. Life is great. I'm making millions of dollars. This creator setup is going to be able to. That's not the way life works. You have to be able to go through those struggles and have those life experiences. And AI didn't have those life experiences. It just got to read about it.
And what do you think about the impact of you put out a piece of AI generated content or you have an AI generated video that's of you, and then you meet a client in person, right? So I'm a small business. I put out AI generated video. Someone saw that, wants to hire me. We meet in person and they ask me about something from the video. And
I've done that.
so I didn't make it. So now I'm in a situation where I don't know what to do, right? Where I go, oh, that wasn't written by me, or that was actually AI. And then the person feels tricked, which is a bad feeling, or you have to go with it. I know people are moving towards using like AI for sales elements and sales calls and sales
Yep.
videos. And they say, whatever that AI promises or says, I have to stick with it. Whatever it said, because it was me. So you're giving an AI an unbelievable amount of power because not only
Yeah.
is it representing you, now it's you. You can't even say, oh, that was my dumb assistant because it was my voice. So you're entering it.
It's my voice, my face. It's everything inside of there.
It's a lot of
And
trust.
you also have a huge, you also have a huge, I'm not a lawyer, don't I'll have all the, none of that, but a huge legal responsibility behind that. Dean and I were just talking about that this weekend. He went to a football party. There's a bunch of lawyers there. I said, here, just kind of mess with them and tell me you can record their voice and that you can make it look like a phone call came from them. And what what is there in the legal system today to be able to prevent that? No, like we have no idea.
Yeah.
We have
And
no idea. We can't tell the difference between real and fake at this point.
do you think this will lead to a renaissance of in-person deal closing where it's, I want to talk to you in person. I want to meet you in person. I want to shake your hand. I want to look in your eyes. I want to make sure that you're a human, not a robot, especially for local. I think that's actually going to give local businesses this huge advantage over nationals because you want to know that you're not being tricked. It used to be, remember 5 or 6 years ago when people would say, did a VA write this or is this you? Now we just say, is this ChatGPT? This happened to me twice in the last week where someone wrote me an aggressive message, being like, I can't believe you sent me an AI generated message. I was like, I wrote that. Like, how dare you?
Right.
No,
That's the hell I took time for that.
it written so badly. I know it was AI. And I go, how dare you? That really was me. Or they thought they were talking to a chat bot or something. They're like, is this pre-recorded? I'm like, you're talking to me right now. I'm responding to you as it's not an AI, but there's this, it's just shifted from, and it's a question of, it all boils down to, can I trust you? Which is, it's
I,
someone
I I had that happen with a team member of ours this last week. It's one of my developers, and he goes, "It's a real insult when you go to AI to go generate a piece of code to send it over to me." And I'm like, "I wrote that. I took 15 minutes and I wrote that script."
yeah. And I,
Like, no, this, I'm like, no, but that's where we're at. As far as the local business, yes, I think it gives them a huge advantage to being able to deal with in person. But when we're dealing with local businesses, so 90% of our user base, our member base is local businesses, small shops, 20 people or less employees. And we get more phone calls that come in that are, hey, I just wanted to make sure you guys were real. Just want to talk to an actual, I wanted to have some kind of interaction. Even though when they first make that phone call in, they're going to get our AI right out of the gate and say, hey, we can take a message for you, or we can schedule a call. But you're going to get to talk to one of the co-founders when you make a phone call in to our phone number. That's how we do business. That's where it is, but they want to be able to know it's real. So they'll get that AI at the very beginning. And the whole reason why we ended up putting AI there is when I was hiring virtual assistants, you had kids in the background. They were answering it. They were doing 500 other things. They were doing dishes at the same time. And it was horrible customer service for that. The AI does better than what they do. Is it perfect? No, sometimes she does things. I mean, sometimes she even sounds aggressive. And I'm like, how does an AI get annoyed with somebody?
yeah.
But it's still better than that human in that factor. But being able to reach somebody at the end of that factor and actually talk to a real human being means the world to everybody because they're so used to everything being automated now. AI has its point. It has its place. I love it. I love technology. I love automation. But let's face it, there's just some things I don't like to automate. We did a huge push for our whole entire platform and moved it over. I had a lot of members get really annoyed. They're like, why didn't you just take the database and copy this? Because I really don't want to have a mistake there. It's a good chance for you to update your business information and make sure it's going out right. Because I'd rather have you do this now than for some reason if my system decided to put somebody else's business information in your spot. Because I know I've seen it happen. You've seen it happen. If we talk being in it for the 90s, I remember how all of that works and it's not perfect. And sometimes that human touch makes a big difference in making sure everything is accurate and where it needs to be.
I believe that we're going through this period where we're trying to figure out how to detect if it's AI or not, because we want, in the same way that like when you called customer service 20 years ago, you were hoping you'd get an American call center. Now you're hoping you get a human at the call center. It's the same kind of
Right.
concepts. This is where the companies that put AI in the wrong place are going to suffer because their reputation's going to quickly diminish. Oh, we don't have any customer support. It's all bots. Well, are the bots allowed to issue refunds? No. Okay, so I know I'm
Look
talking
at
to
Google.
yeah, and they
I had 3 representatives with Google that I knew that were my contacts for doing Google Business Profile and Google Ads. All 3 of them sent emails within the same week in the last 6 weeks. Actually, it's been probably the last 90 days where they've been replaced by an AI bot. And that's what their email said. And Google's proud of that.
and it's yeah, and I think that we're gonna see, just like in a lot of movies where everyone turns against the AIs or turns against the bots and all of that, where you just want to know that there's something, the human connection. And I think it's really an advantage for smaller companies and companies that are paying a little bit more attention. There's a lot of places, a lot of things you can automate. I always tell my clients and people I work with, I said, have an AI sort your emails, but don't have an AI write your emails. Have an AI organize your data, but don't have an AI make your data, because there is something about that you write yourself, that you have an opinion, whatever, that really makes a difference. And we can accidentally there's this temptation right now to have AI replace the human connection that every time we interact with a human, which replace that with AI. That's what we see in all of the Apple commercials. You never have to ask a person what kind of dog they have. You could just take a picture of it. And I was like, oh, see what happens when you take a picture of someone's dog without their permission. Are you crazy? That is really
I'm dare you to go to San Francisco and try that.
go to any dog park as a single man with no dog. You're going to be talking to the police within 5 minutes. So these use all
People
so
love their dogs more than they love their kids.
these use cases are so silly, but and I don't think, and the best use case of AI is analysis, analytics, looking at your data, telling you what to do, planning, organizing, all of that. But
Correct.
that's not as exciting as I made an AI video that almost looks like a human. It's only got 7 fingers instead of 6. So humans have 5 fingers. You've seen so many images you forgot. So I definitely think this is a very interesting field, and it's important for people to not be tempted to cut too many corners, which I think is the most important thing, to be strategic in where you use AI as part of your process, to not push anything out the door that you haven't checked and approved to make sure that it sounds like you and it is your messaging. So I love all of that. And I think this has been really awesome. I think it's going to help a lot of people that are wondering how to navigate the waters of SEO. And I really am excited about the idea that that quality will matter again. If people are interested in they have a local business or looking for a little help, where can they connect with you and find out what you do and see if maybe you can help them navigate these waters?
You can always visit us at simplybefound.com. We have a huge YouTube channel. So be YouTube, search YouTube for Simply Be Found. You're going to find all of our videos. I think we're sitting at 1,700 or 1,800 videos at this point. I talk about these topics all the time. A lot of it's my randomness that's gets posted up and out there, but simplybefound.com. We do everything from listings to a social media suite that uses AI to be able to help you generate your social media content. I do recommend that you look through it before you ever post. And it's going off of based of what your other stuff is. And then we have our whole entire AI SEO pixel, which is going to be game changing, but it has our hardest part for selling that is being able to say it has that human piece that's behind it. And some people go, what's the point of that? I'm like, you should not make your CTA click it here now. I was doing one this morning. That's what it wanted to make CTAs on a website. And I'm like, oh,
Exactly. So I love that. And I think this can be really helpful for people who are trying to figure out what to use AI for and what not to use AI for. So thank you so much for being here today, Robert. This is an amazing episode. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Starting with AI can be scary. ChatGPT Profits is not only a bestseller, but also the missing instruction manual to make mastering ChatGPT a breeze. Bypass the hard stuff and get straight to success with ChatGPT Profits. As always, I would love for you to support the show by paying full price on Amazon. But you can get it absolutely free for a limited time at artificialintelligencepod.com/gift. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Artificial Intelligence Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. We'll be back next Monday with more tips and tactics on how to leverage AI to escape that rat race. Head over to artificialintelligencepod.com now to see past episodes, leave a review, and check out all of our socials.